Good afternoon. If I could ask everyone to take a seat or at least quiet down so we could start our meeting. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that. I want to welcome you to the joint meeting of the Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting and the House Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committee, where we're having a town hall meeting. I want to thank South Forsyth High School for allowing us to be hosted here. I'm going to begin, as we do our Senate and our House committee meetings, by opening in prayer. You happen to be seated in the 27th district, Senate district, and if you live in that district, your senator is here. And I'm going to call and ask Senator Greg Dolezal if he would please open us in prayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please bow with me. Lord, we thank you for this day today. We thank you for breath in our lungs. We thank you for freedom in our step and the ability to live as free people. We thank you, those of us up at this table, for the opportunity to represent the great people that are before us. And we all of us thank you for giving us the opportunity to live in this great nation. Pray we would love each other well, that you give us discernment this evening, you would keep us healthy. We thank you for those who are not with us, and we thank you for the abundant blessings you've poured on each and every one of us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Senator Dolezal. So, good afternoon. My name is John Kennedy. I live in Macon, Georgia. I represent the 18th District, and as I mentioned, I chair the Senate Redistricting Committee. And for these meetings, I am the co-chair, along with Representative Bonnie Rich, who chairs the Redistricting Committee in the House. This is a series of town hall meetings that we're hosting around the state for the purpose of listening to you, the voters, and the constituents that we have in Georgia. So I want to welcome you to this and thank you for your input in advance. Your being here is why we're here, and we thank you for that. We want to be sure that we're hearing from the public in addition to the elected officials. And let me also, it was remiss of me, I want to welcome and thank the members of the Senate and House Redistricting Committee members that are here, many of whom are on the tables that you'll see in front of us, and we may have some other legislators. These are your public servants that are elected from around the state. Some have traveled from great distances to come to be here to listen to you as well, and they will be integral in the process as we go forward through the redistricting process. So first, this is the third hearing of 11 public hearings that we're going to hold across the state. We've had such interest in the hearing that everyone traditionally in the last two meetings has been given 2 minutes to speak, but based on the number of people that have signed up at this point, we're going to change that to 3 minutes because we're trying to divide the number of folks that have signed up by the 2 hours that we have allotted, so we're going to give everybody a little extra time. Please bear with us. If other people show up late and want to speak, we're going to do all we can to accommodate them, but we also want to be respectful of everyone's time for the time period that we've allotted for this as well. We have 8 more hearings coming up around the state. Some are in person, and there'll be one more that's virtual. And everyone, regardless of where you live, is welcome to come. We'll be holding hearings. And if I could, as a bit of a public service announcement, I'd like to tell you where they are of the remaining ones. Tomorrow, the June 30th, we'll be in Dalton. July the 6th, we will be in Athens. And by the way, all of these are 5 to 7 o'clock. We chose that time to give working folks a chance to come and so that we could hear. So all of these are 5 to 7 p.m. July the 7th, we'll be in Augusta. July 26th, we will be in Brunswick. July 27th, we'll be in Albany. July 28th in Columbus, July 29th in Macon, and then our final planned town hall meeting will be virtual. That'll be July the 30th. At each of these hearings, we're going to hear from folks from different parts of the states, from the state. We'll be collecting written comments as well about the parts from various parts of the state. We've got a dedicated link for that, which you can find out from the page at the Georgia House and the Georgia Senate. You can go on the website and look for the Redistricting Committee, and it will give you information on how to submit any additional information you may want to submit. If you didn't speak tonight and you want to submit information, please do. And even if you did speak tonight and you want to submit additional information, we'd like to receive that as well. Our goal is to ensure that every comment that we get goes into a central location so that we can utilize it as we go about the work of this process. Third, we're going to be making some changes to process to ensure that we collect every piece of useful information about the process. Members of the General Assembly receive guidance from outside counsel about the importance of preserving records and information. We have been making some adjustments to our email and voicemail systems to ensure everything is being captured as best as possible. All of that is with the goal of ensuring that we get everyone's input and process. I'd like to now pass the mic, if I can, to Chairman Rich.
Hi, thank you all for being here. One of the questions that we get a lot is, when will the special session be? And the answer is, we don't yet know. The Census Bureau has indicated that they will provide us with the data that we need by the end of September. So we do know that it will just be sometime in the fall. There are still some lawsuits pending about the data, and we don't know how that's going to resolve or if it's going to delay it even further. So we will be collecting comments tonight about the process and the needs around the state. For this hearing tonight, we are going to watch a video to give you a little bit of background on the redistricting process. And then after that video, we are going to open this up to individuals who have signed up to speak. As we have done in the first two meetings, we will take people in the order in which they signed up. Now, often when politicians hold hearings, it's because they like to hear themselves talk. But that is not the case tonight. Tonight, we want to hear from you, from what you have to say about your communities, because you know your community best. That's why we're going around the state, to hear from the people who know their communities the best. In order to respect everyone's time, we are going to limit people to 3 minutes, so there will be a timer that will cue you in, and then if you hear the timer go off, if you will just wrap up what you were saying, and so that we can open it up to the next person. All of these meetings are being recorded, so it's currently being live streamed on the House and Senate websites, and then tomorrow it will be available for you to watch after the fact. So with that, if we can cue up the video.
Every 10 years following the decennial census, the process of redistricting begins all over our country. Let's take a look at what that redistricting is and what else we need to know before we begin this process in the state of Georgia.
My name is Gina Wright, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment. We are a nonpartisan joint office of the Georgia General Assembly, and we serve both the House and the Senate.
What is redistricting?
As the population in our state grows, the number of people in each district must be adjusted so that the population in each district is as close to equal as practicable. This is done by redistricting, or modifying the boundary lines of the districts. In Georgia, our new 2020 census resident population total is 10,711,908 people. Because of this population increase, each of our 14 congressional districts will need to adjust to have 765,136 people in them. At the state level, our legislative branch of government has 56 state senators and 180 representatives in the state house, elected by districts. State Senate districts will be redrawn to now include around 191,284 people. State House districts will also need to increase in population size to around 59,511 people. In the Georgia General Assembly, there is a standing committee on redistricting in both the House and the Senate. Each committee has a chairman.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Rich. I'm chairman of the Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committee in the State House. I've served in that capacity since 2019. Since 2018, I have represented District 97, which includes parts of Duluth, Suwannee, and Sugar Hill in Gwinnett County.
Hello, I'm State Senator John F. Kennedy, and I represent the 18th District in the State Senate, which includes all of Monroe, Peach, Crawford, and Upson counties, and part of Bibb County and Houston County. I also am chairman of the Senate Redistricting and Reapportionment Committee.
What is reapportionment, and how is it different from redistricting?
The term apportionment is the act of dividing and allocating representation proportionally. The United States Constitution requires that all 435 House districts shall be apportioned among the 50 states based on population from each decennial census. There is a guarantee of at least one seat per state in the United States House, and a method of equal proportions determines how the other 385 are distributed. Every 10 years, states may gain or lose congressional districts based on how they gained or lost population in comparison to other states based on data from the decennial census.
The state of Georgia presently has 14 seats in the U.S. House, and the 2010 census resulted in a gain of 1 new seat for the state following an increase of 2 new districts in 2000. It's common to interchange the term reapportionment with the term redistricting, but the two terms really don't mean the same thing. Reapportionment only occurs at the federal level when U.S. House districts are distributed amongst the states. Even with a gain of over 1 million people in Georgia over the past decade, Georgia will continue to have 14 congressional districts.
When does redistricting take place?
Traditionally, the governor of Georgia issues a call for a special legislative session in late summer or early fall following the arrival of the new census data. The sole purpose of this session is to adopt newly redrawn maps for all statewide district plans and may also include new maps for local county commission or school board districts. The session occurs so that all county election officials have sufficient time to update voter district assignments once the process is complete prior to elections the next year. After the Georgia General Assembly adopts new maps and the governor signs the bills into law, they become the new election districts for use in the next election cycle or on the date specified in the legislation. This year, with COVID-related delays in the census, the special session will likely take place later in the year because we will not receive full census data until late August or September.
What other factors do we have to consider besides equal population?
The first mission of redistricting is to ensure that districts are roughly equal to each other. Equalizing population ensures that each individual's vote counts the same toward their representatives. But equal population is only one part of the puzzle.
Maps must also comply with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and traditional principles of redistricting, like ensuring communities of interest are represented, avoiding major changes to existing representation in the legislature, and keeping local government jurisdictions whole. Those legal criteria are what often keeps maps from being drawn as perfect squares across our state.
Why do we have public hearings?
The redistricting process begins with hearing from the public. The General Assembly is ready to hear from you about the uniqueness of your part of the state, what communities of interest are here, and what important factors it should consider as we all prepare to redraw the districts later this year.
Okay, thank you to our Media Services Department who did an excellent job with that video. We are going to announce the first 3 people who will be speaking, and that way if you can kind of prepare your remarks and prepare yourself to move toward the front of the room, we can kind of keep things moving along. So first up will be Emily Fields. After Ms. Fields will be Faith Pescator. And after Ms. Pescator will be Rebecca Yardley. Okay, you may proceed.
Hi, my name is Emily Fields. I am currently a resident of Sugar Hill in Gwinnett County. I am a graduate of Mill Creek High School myself in the year 2009. And I'm also a Navy veteran. And I'd like to approach you guys today to speak out for my 5 children that will be going through Gwinnett County schools. We currently have a school board that doesn't accurately reflect our population and our current growth as a county in Gwinnett County, and I feel like the redistricting should accommodate for an additional board member in Gwinnett County so that we can have better representation for our kids. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Pescator.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Faith Pescator, and I'm a resident of Suwanee, which of course is part of North Gwinnett. I'm part of the 7th Congressional District. My husband and I moved here from Ohio about 5 years ago, and I'm a lifelong Republican, and we really love it here. I've always been really active in my community, but never politically until I saw what was going on in this country. And frankly, it's very disturbing, some of the things that I've seen. So I became precinct chairman in Suwanee. I have a great team. A lot of them are here tonight, and we're working really hard contacting every citizen in my precinct, registering them to vote, making sure that they have their opportunity to vote. So in calling dozens and dozens of these people, I'm finding a common theme, that they really like it here. They like North Gwinnett. They've moved here because of low crime, great schools, small businesses thrive here, and mostly because of their conservative neighbors. And this didn't happen by accident. These are people that have lived here for a while. They have invested their lives in North Gwinnett. They built this area. It's a very desirable area to live in, and I'm extremely concerned about the situation with the map drawing. We all are concerned about North Gwinnett because we here in our precinct want and deserve conservative representation. Shifting us to another district could dilute our strength as conservatives, and we need a home. We want representation that shares our values, and we really honestly don't have that right now. Some of the citizens in Suwanee that I've spoken to on the phone don't agree with our current Congresswoman's decisions about what is wanted for our community. I actually emailed her twice and got no response. So we like this community. We want to stay here. And what we're asking for really is just keeping North Gwinnett in a largely conservative area, which really would just require a simple resizing of the district. Thank you all for considering our request to North Gwinnett and our 7th Congressional District.
Thank you, Ms. Pescator. Ms. Yardley, and then after Ms. Yardley, we will have Maureen McIver, Sammy Baker, and Sharon Wood.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Yardley, and I live in Cleveland, Georgia, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the chairwoman of the 9th District Republican Party. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak today. I recognize that the job you have is not an easy job before you. But I want to leave you with these remarks. Georgia has seen an exponential growth of individuals seeking to call this state home in the last decade. And as a result, there has been monumental change within our communities. The goal of redistricting is to ensure that all Georgians have equal representation, but it is also to ensure that communities with specific needs are paired with communities of the same needs. Our state is greatly diverse, from the mountains of North Georgia to the coast of South Georgia, from the farmlands of Tifton to the metro businesses of Atlanta. That diversity is what draws people to this state. It is important that as we look at redrawing congressional, Senate, House, and local districts, that we remember the importance of keeping our communities whole. The needs of communities such as infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and businesses help guide our representatives, each of you and those of your colleagues, in how to best advocate for those that they represent. I implore this committee to remember that redrawing of our lines in this state should be nonpartisan. It isn't about being Republican, nor is it about being Democrat, but rather it is seeking to do what is best for the citizens that call this state home, ensuring that politics aside, each person has the best representation possible, that our communities prosper, and that Georgia continues to be a great state in which to live and play. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maureen McIver.
Good afternoon. My name is Maureen McIver. I'm a resident of Peachtree Corners, so HD 95. And I'm also a representative of the League of Women Voters of Gwinnett, which is a century-old, nonpartisan organization that believes democracy is not a spectator sport. We're dedicated to empowering voters and defending democracy. So I'm here today to ask you to do these things: empower voters, defend democracy. You have the opportunity to create fair districts that serve communities of interest, which empowers voters. And that gives us the ability to have our voices heard. So I'm going to talk about two sports: democracy and football. Professional football starts with a coin toss. Why? Fairness. Whether you think it's an advantage or not to kick or receive isn't the point. It's that you have a fair shot at your preference. The district lines you're drawing are akin to this coin toss. When done fairly, without regard to partisanship, you empower the voters to choose the best candidate. You give us the fairness of a coin toss. I'm also asking you to defend democracy. And what do I mean? Defending democracy means protecting our rights to choose our representatives without influence or subversion by interests that want a certain outcome: power, winning. Why? Fairness. It's the same reason why the Patriots videotaping their opponents' coaching signals or deflating footballs is wrong, and it's against the rules. It's one side manipulating the game, the system, to give itself an advantage. You protect democracy when you draw districts without regard to the incumbent, when you keep cities together rather than splitting them apart. My county seat, Lawrenceville, is an excellent, as in terrible, example of this, with 6 state representatives. So as you do your work to create districts for the next 10 years, protect democracy in the same way you would protect your team from an opponent using performance-enhancing drugs or stolen coaching signals, because to do otherwise isn't fair. I know you have a tough job and no one will be happy when you're done. But thank you for your work, your public service. On behalf of all of us, we do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ms. McIver. Next up is Sammy Baker, then Sharon Wood, then Susan Clymer.
Hello, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming out to see us. I just want to say that I have a business in Beaufort. I'm Sammy Baker, and we live in the Collins Hill High School area. And we just feel like that Forsyth and basically Gwinnett have a lot in common. We have the lake that we develop our communities around and have a lot to do with our community, how it's set up. So I think that keeping that together, kind of not making little districts here and tiny little districts here, let's keep the community together as you're looking at redistricting, trying to keep us as a community instead of just making special little districts. I think the way it's set up is pretty good as it is. You may have to do a little tweaking to the neighborhoods. But another thing is, I agree with the first speaker that we probably need more representation for our school district. We have only 5, and we have a very large county now, and that would be something that someone should look at, having more representation for specific areas and keeping communities together. So I think that's very important, especially right now we have a very divided situation with our school district. So I would just want you to keep that in mind. Fairness is very important, and it is good for everybody to be fair in how we draw the lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Sharon Wood, and then after that, Susan Clymer and Laura Simanson.
Hi, and thank you all for being here and for doing the work that you do. I hope we can all agree that district lines should be drawn so that voters can choose their representatives, not so that a particular party can choose its voters. The redistricting process needs to be fair, impartial, and transparent to the public. It's important to hold public hearings that are actually accessible to the public. Some of us were able to travel here from Gwinnett, a very diverse community where people of color are the majority, here to Forsyth, where, well, look around. At a time when laws are being passed to make it more difficult to vote, especially for people of color, we need to understand that if the process is not fair, this will weaken our democracy. The voting public is watching, and we want to see a nonpartisan and fair process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Susan Clymer, then Laura Samanson, and then Joel Nat.
My name is Susan Dix Clymer, and I live in the Gwinnett portion of Suwannee, and transparency will be the theme of my remarks. For those of you up here who are on the House and Senate voting committees, in full transparency, I want you to know I watched every single one of your committee meetings. I'm a nerd. And I watched it until that final metamorphosis into 202. I must admit, you all look different than you do on Zoom. Did y'all really enjoy getting up at having meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning and maybe 7 o'clock at night? At least I could stay in my comfy clothes and there was no camera on me. Seriously, what you all do is serious. What you do with voting bills and with redistricting is very serious to our democracy. So that was my first transparency I watch. My second is that transparency should be the key to these hearings, and I think you would agree with that. To that end, in full transparency, I am a Democrat, and I acknowledge that the party in charge rarely draws lines fairly. Both parties have gerrymandered, but does that mean we have to continue such? Even though racial gerrymandering is illegal, it is hard to distinguish racial gerrymandering from its legal cousin called party gerrymandering. And third, keeping with the theme of transparency, I'm really not sure why all these hearings are being held before the census data is released. None of you get paid enough to do these statewide hearings. I know what y'all get paid. It's diddly. But if you do continue to gather comments from the public, I hope you will do it after the data is also in. And I hope that you can lead all of us in Georgia into a transparent, independent, nonpartisan, fair redistricting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clymer. Laura Samanson, Joel Nat, and then Heiko.
Good evening, panel. Thank you for allowing this opportunity for us to speak here in Forsyth County, right in the middle of the 7th District, as has been mentioned. My name is Laura Simonson, and although I am an elected official on a local level here in Forsyth County, a former chairman and current commissioner, I'm speaking in my individual capacity. What I have learned from all of my dealings as a local elected official is that it's really not about red. It's not about blue. It's not about party. It's about serving your community. And the very cornerstone of this country is based on fair representation for the people. And Forsyth County for a very long time has been disenfranchised as a county. And that may seem odd because everybody looks at Forsyth County as a place that is wealthy, a place that is successful, a place that has good schools, and a good community. But what we do lack is actual representation at the state and the federal level. I say that to say that because we have been a county that has been divided. So when it comes to transportation, when it comes to really any type of program that involves the state or the federal government, we don't have a voice for our community. And this is about community. This is making sure that the elected officials that we work with are able to hear our voice as a community. We don't have some of the things that other counties in this state have with respect to cities and smaller versions of government that can hone in on those needs and serve them more directly. We are a fractured county when it comes to our representation at higher levels of government, and that is a penalty for us, that we don't have a fair shot at things. So if we're looking at fairness, we need to look at communities. And Forsyth County is a big community, and we're a proud community, and we take care of each other, and we love this community. It's not about red, it's not about blue, it's not about party lines. It's about making sure that Forsyth County has the best type of representation that it can have to continue to be successful in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Joel Nat, then Heiko, and then Diane Fisher.
Good evening. First off, I want to thank all the members of the committee, as well as Chairmans Kennedy and Rich, for taking time to be here tonight. My name is Joel Natt, and I've been a resident of Forsyth County since 2007. I currently, just so you know, I live in Senate District 27, Senator Dozel's district, and we both live almost on the west end of the county, almost in Cherokee. So when you look at things, you have to look at it from community. And as Senator Kennedy said in the video, community is about people with common interests in a particular area. And as you've heard already, and several people, and I'm sure several after me will say, it is about keeping us as a community. Community is more than that. It's about infrastructure and resources as well. And what I want to bring that up is there's 400, there's other roads that make up infrastructure. There's also Lake Lanier that affects this community. And as you look to the reapportionment, I ask you to think back historically to 2011, the last time this occurred. The community of Forsyth County in 2011 asked for one simple thing: keep us together, don't make us separate. In 2011, at the end of reapportionment and redistricting, Forsyth County had 2 congressional districts. You had the 7th and the 9th. We shifted a lot. We were predominantly 9th prior to then. Now we're about 60% 7th. But over those 10 years, the state saw a lot as well. The state saw issues in terms of how do we deal with Lake Lanier and deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. And we had some things called Mama and Papa, as I call them. The Army Corps of Engineers would go and talk to Congressman Collins out of the 9th, and then they'd go talk to Congressman Woodall out of the 7th, and that affected our community. If you were to think about a moment, Forsyth is very affluent financially, and that's because of the lake. If the lake disappeared or the Army stopped working with us, it wouldn't be here anymore. It wouldn't be a community. Everybody would scatter. Community is about people. It's about commonality. And I ask you, as you look at reapportionment, to think about those things. Think about what makes us a community. And North Gwinnett, Hall, Forsyth are the 3 most important communities when it comes to Lake Lanier. We all need those resources. Look and think what's going to help Georgia. And when it comes to that learn from the mama and papa issue, you're all probably parents or grandparents and know the kids, they run to mom, they don't like it, they run to dad, they get a different answer, and vice versa. And this is what we dealt with for the last 10 years in getting anything from the Army Corps. And that hurts our community. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Natt. Hi, Cow, then Diane Fisher, then Barbara Luth.
Good evening, Madam and Monsieur legislators. My name is Hai Kao. I'm currently resided in Lawrenceville, Gwinnett County. Prior to this current address, I live in San Jose, California, and before that, Seattle, Washington. And originally, I am escaped from the communist Vietnam in Saigon, Vietnam at the last minute on April 30th, 1975. And because I escaped from the communist government, I don't call them government, communists. That's why I have the opportunity to stay right here to talk to you guys and let you guys know what I feel, what my personal feeling, because you know you don't have that luxury in a communist country. Believe me. So today, I also want to tell you that when I moved here from San Jose, California, I had to search around to find a place to live. And I decided to move to Gwinnett County. You know why? Because public school was ranked very high. Not the best, but pretty high up. However, the cost of living is not that expensive either. So I decided to move to bought a house in Lawrenceville and resided here and was very happy with the life and the politics and the service and the population in Gwinnett County until recently. After the election, I can see we do not have a well-balanced representative of conservative principle and value. And as a result, you see it right away. You see the school board, try to introduce things that we, the parents, didn't agree with that. I went to the school board meeting and also listened to what they want to teach us. Critical race theory, SEL, walk. I believe those belong to me, the parents, not the school. I would like school to teach math, science, physics, all of the things. Not all those, social issues. But so, I'm sorry. So when you just 1 second, really resize the district, please consider well-balanced for the representative, our representative for our principle, conservative principle and value of the Gwinnett County. Thank you for your time. Listen.
Thank you, Mr. Cow. Diane Fisher, Barbara Luth after that, then Jen Uzita.
Thank you. My name is Diane Fisher. I live in Peachtree Corners in Gwinnett County, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the members of the League of Women Voters of Gwinnett County. As an educator, I teach young people the importance of backing up their positions with data and reviewing their work before submission. And so I ask the same from you as you undertake the important work of redrawing the district lines, which will be with us for the next decade. So as your math teacher would say, show your work. Make proposed maps and underlying data public before the maps are approved so that the people who will have to live with these new district lines can have input on these proposals. Secondly, check your work. Commit to a nonpartisan review of the maps before they are finalized. You have heard a great deal of concern that partisan politics will drive the map drawing process. By having nonpartisan committees review maps, this fear will be alleviated. It is also important that the public knows the rules and has time necessary to reflect and respond to them. Please adopt rules and guidelines for the special session and post them online before the special session to finalize maps begins. We recognize that change is hard, and there is no way to make every Georgian satisfied with the end results. But by creating a transparent process and allowing the populace to have information ahead of decisions, there will be greater sense of confidence that you are truly creating maps that serve the best interests of all Georgians. Thank you for all your time and your work.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Barbara Luth, then Jen Uzita, and then Ness Garza Cerna.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Barbara Luth, and I am a resident of Forsyth County. But today I'm addressing you as the Chief Registrar and Board Chairman of the Forsyth County Board of Registrations and Elections. I have over 25 years of experience in registrations and elections and have experienced the process of redistricting of election offices of both Forsyth County and Gwinnett County in the past. On behalf of the board and the elections office, I encourage you to keep the following in mind as you work through the process of redistricting throughout the state. As you know, election boards are responsible for defining voting precincts and determining election day polling places, while you legislatures are tasked with defining voting districts, i.e. who and what districts represent each voter. The Georgia Election Code Annotated clearly defines the boundary requirements for voting precincts. Per OCGA 21-2-261.1, all voting precincts established or altered under the provisions of this article shall consist of areas which are bounded on all sides only by visible features which are readily distinguishable upon the ground, such as streets, railroad tracks, streams, lakes, and ridges, and which are indicated upon official Department of Transportation maps, current census maps, county and city maps, and official municipality maps, and any combination of those maps. The boundaries of public parks, schools, churches, counties, incorporated community, municipalities, and the boundaries of restricted access residential communities can be used as well. I would encourage you to be mindful of all voting districts and, when possible, to follow common boundaries. Election offices must consider all voting districts to include U.S. Congressional, State Senate, State House, County Commission, county school boards, city limits, as well as current voting precincts. When small gaps between voting districts result, election offices are faced with the challenges of creating new voting precincts. These small gaps can cause a ripple effect, which include additional ballot styles. This means more types of absentee, provisional, and emergency ballots must be purchased and on hand for each election. For election boards and offices, we look at maps focusing on roads and streams, clearly defined boundaries. We understand that during redistricting, that you focus on the census blocks and population. In conclusion, I encourage you to form a partnership with your local election offices to utilize the resources they can contribute to in order to assist with redistricting process, as well as minimize some of the ripple effects that come from redistricting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luth. We have Jen Uzita next, and then Ness Garza Cerna.
Hello, my name is Jen Uceda. First, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and for holding this meeting. Redistricting happens once every decade. Let's think about how different we were 10 years ago. I mean, I was 14. Redistricting happens, sorry, I lost my place. Georgia has grown more and more diverse as the years have passed, yet our elected officials do not reflect that. Redistricting should not be done in favor of elected officials, rather for the communities they fail to serve. Gerrymandering comes at the expense of poor Black and brown communities. But I want to give you a reminder that you work for us, and as your employer, we demand transparency in the process of map drawing and approval. We demand a fair, nonpartisan party to redraw district lines. We also demand accessibility of this for all, not just English-speaking, able-bodied people. It's all of us. Just know anything you do behind closed doors, we will continue knocking, just as Park Cannon did when Kemp signed those egregious voter suppression bills in hiding. We will strategize, organize, and mobilize until the power is reinstated back to the people of Georgia. Thank you.
All right, Ness Garza Cerna will be next.
Hi, my name is Ness Garza Cerna. I'm a student at the University of Georgia, and I'm with Protect the Vote. First, I want to thank you for having this meeting to listen to the people's voices. We as a state are ever changing. Our population is growing, and we must grow with it. We can no longer gerrymander our way to office. Communities need equal representation and resources for every one of their residents. It is evident from this past election, voters want to be involved. So let us take part in this redistricting process, as it most importantly affects us. We need transparency. We need to do better, do what's best for the people. And if not, just know we will vote someone who will into your seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Scott Jackson, please. And then Karuna Ramachandran. Forgive me if I didn't say that correctly. And then Camille Brown.
Hello, thank you for having me here today. My name is Scott Jackson. First, I want to thank everybody for serving our country by participating in this process. I want to note I have here my Otwell Middle School card, but on it it says Scott Cohen. It says Scott Cohen because my stepdad tried to make my family whole by giving me his name, and so I'm going to try to pass along the wisdom of that and say, could you please make Forsyth whole? I would like my daughter to grow up well represented, and I understand that that should be a focused effort. And so I'm just going to simply ask, make Forsyth whole.
Thank you. Karuna Ramachandran. Next, Camille Brown, followed by John Wallace.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this time, and thank God I just found my glasses. So good evening. My name is Karuna Ramachandran, and I serve as the Director of Statewide Partnerships with Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta. We are the first and only nonprofit legal organization dedicated to protecting the civil rights of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders in Georgia and the Southeast. As such, we have been working in Forsyth County for several years to ensure that the voices of Asian American communities are represented. As an organization, language access and language equity are a primary concern for us always. Because without language access, we cannot connect with community members in meaningful ways. We can't learn what their concerns are. And without language equity, we cannot fight alongside community members, or better yet, move aside and make space for them to fight for themselves. And so as an organization, we will not stop fighting until elected officials have these same concerns for language equity. And we look forward to a time when elected officials such as yourselves want to build meaningful relationships with Georgians of all backgrounds and show a commitment to language equity as a baseline first step to building those relationships. This is particularly important in Forsyth County, right? We have 15% of the population here is Asian American, 10% Hispanic or Latino, 4% Black. 17% of the population here is foreign born, and of that, 54% is Asian American. 22% of the population in Forsyth speak a language other than English in home, and that's even higher than some national averages. So the residents of Forsyth County deserve better. There was no notice of this meeting in a language other than English, right? Which effectively excludes a large majority of the population here. So, our organization signed on to a letter with the Georgia Immigrant Rights Alliance calling for language equity and redistricting, along with 63 organizations across the state. And we'd like to continue to speak with you about this issue because it's not too late. Right? It is not too late to ensure that we have translations and accommodation for interpretation as part of the redistricting process. You still have time to be transparent about the process with Georgians who have repeatedly asked for more information about the criteria and data you are using to draw the maps. And I want to share that if you're truly committed to public input, then you'll no longer conduct this process that impacts everybody, not only in Forsyth, but across the state, and conducting this process in English only. And so we just hope that you'll ensure that Georgians from all backgrounds are able to give input on the draft maps that requires language equity in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Camille Braun.
Hello. It's probably the most nervous thing I do. Not very comfortable here. But anyway, my name is Camille Brown. I am a resident of the great county of Cherokee. I'm also a member of the Cherokee County Republican Party. I serve on the executive committee. So I'm speaking on behalf of my county being here. This is my first time participating in the process, but certainly not my first time observing the result of this process. Cherokee is a vibrant County and makes up a significant portion of the 11th congressional district. Currently, the 11th district includes Cherokee, all of Bartow, parts of Cobb, and Fulton, a very tiny slither of Fulton, if I may say. I would like to request that Cherokee remain intact as it has been. Any attempt to unnecessarily gerrymander our county to elevate or accommodate districts outside of the 11th district is disingenuous on your part. I understand that Georgia is growing, we are becoming more diverse, but your goal should be to keep communities together and based on equality. Cherokee County residents are common in our beliefs, our community involvement, and we love our community. Cherokee is still a rural and continues to make it a unique community. Every effort must be made to maintain Cherokee whole. If you must combine Cherokee with neighbors, then a similarly situated community should be considered. Since 11th District has grown, then it should shrink, but not at the expense of Cherokee County. I will end by asking that race, political identity should not be a factor in your apportioning. Community should be the only factor. It should be equal. This is what was mentioned in your intro video. It should, our community should mirror, our representatives should mirror their voters and community. So far, we've been happy with our representatives, and we'd like to keep it that way. Remember, equality, community, and I think many of us here would like to see our counties intact, and I would strongly urge you to keep Cherokee County intact. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. John Wallace, followed by Greg Landon.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all having this meeting as close to Cherokee as possible. I've been a Cherokee resident for 28 years, my wife and I. And when we moved there 28 years ago, it was represented by Newt Gingrich in the south and Nathan Deal in the north. And it was rare to see both of those gentlemen at any meeting. So you don't get 2 times the representation. I think you get diluted representation. So I'm here to ask you to keep areas of common interest together. In fact, 10 years ago, I actually drew up a congressional district that was 41 people from being dead center perfect, population divided by 14, and it was Bartow, Cherokee, Forsyth, and Hall County, with Dawson County added in. But I think Governor Deal wanted to draw his district and the rest of them a little differently. So I just ask you to keep Cherokee together, just like the man from Forsyth said. I think you're hearing from people from Forsyth that they didn't like being divided. The people from Cherokee, being larger, are going to like it a lot less. And I imagine that's part of the reason that Representative Hamilton and Senator Murphy are no longer representing Forsyth County. So keep us together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greg Landon.
Hello, my name's Greg Landon. I'd like to also thank you for coming out tonight and hearing what we have to say. I live right here in Forsyth County since 1991. And my wife and I love this county. We love this community. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise our children. And I too would like to see our county made whole. Being split between the 9th and the 7th, like so many have said before, it just dilutes, and we have to fight for resources, whether it's infrastructure or the lake, like Joel mentioned. So there's a lot of factors for keeping us whole that make a lot of sense. And also, I was very discouraged to find out that as being part of the 7th, I don't feel like we're well represented at the national level. our current Congresswoman does not represent the community that I live in and have lived in for 20 years, and my neighbors, and so I'd like to see Forsyth made whole again, and I appreciate everything that you can do to make that happen. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mark Roundtree. Then next will be Rahul Garabado.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Roundtree from Johns Creek. I have written down just a few comments. This is my fourth actively monitored redistricting session. I've watched this fairly closely for all four, for I guess 1990, 2000, 2011, and now this year. So I have watched the good and the bad. In 2001, the majority party at that time drew highly polarizing congressional and legislative district lines. These lines were eventually ruled by the courts to be racist and rejected. The courts themselves also found that these lines needlessly split communities of interest. The courts themselves took over the redistricting process, three-judge panel, and redrew the lines. The majority party at that time drew one particularly famous congressional district that started just a few miles south of here in DeKalb County and stretched all the way to Savannah, Georgia, 300 miles long. There were 14 congressional districts. Imagine how that happened. And this was done for the sole purpose of keeping the majority party at that time in power. This was not empowerment of minorities. This had nothing to do with communities of interest. This was wrong. In some places, that district was only about 12 to 20 feet wide. That, my friends, is redistricting. I mean, that, my friends, is gerrymandering. There's a lot of confusion over what gerrymandering is. That was. So I'm here today to ask that the committee and the legislature use the same wisdom that was used in the 2011 legislative session. Those lines resulted in some of the cleanest congressional and Senate and House district lines created in the country. Use the same wisdom. I am here to actually urge a second consideration. Metro Atlanta, in particular, has had enormous growth. We are one of the fastest growing areas of the country. We need more local representation at the county level. We have counties such as Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, and then some other counties in the rest of the state that have grown at such speed that now the local county commissioners and school board members are representing 4 times the number of people that were represented just 30 years ago. These people who are the commissioners and the school board members in particular, they have a hard job representing a few 100,000 people with 1 or 2 part-time staff people in some cases. So I want to urge the committee to consider, as you move forward at the local level, adding some local additional commission and school board districts for more access, so that voters can have more access and people can have more access to their local officials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. Rahul Garabado.
Good afternoon. My name is Rahul Garabadu, and I'm the Voting Rights Staff Attorney at the ACLU of Georgia. The ACLU of Georgia is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to protecting the civil liberties of each and every Georgian. The right to vote is one of the most sacred civil liberties that we have as Americans. We believe that voting should be easy for every citizen and that each vote should count the same. Fair maps are crucial to ensuring that every vote counts equally. Now, we're here in Cumming tonight, a community that represents the growing diversity of our state. Preliminary data estimates show that the seismic demographic shifts that have taken place just between 2010 and 2019 have happened here too. While white voting age population in Forsyth County grew by about 21.9%, Asian voting age population grew by 174.5%, Black voting age population grew by 102.4%, and Hispanic voting age population grew by 34.3%. The maps that are drawn in 2021 need to take that diversity into account and ensure that voters of color have the same opportunity to elect candidates of their choice as white voters do. Now, fair maps also require that legislators conduct the redistricting process transparently. Simply put, legislators must show their work when drafting maps, and they must show it every step of the way. Transparency means that legislators have public hearings not just months before the Census Bureau releases its data, but also after the data is released, which is when maps are actually being drafted. Transparency means that members of this committee should go to each judicial district in Georgia to show their proposed maps to the public, explain how they got those maps, and meaningfully consider feedback. Lastly, transparency means that all meetings considering redistricting are done openly before the public with plenty of notice and access provided for Georgians. Now, these are just a few of the baseline standards that this committee should adopt to ensure that the redistricting process is open, democratic, and representative of the interests of all Georgians. In the current atmosphere, with so much misinformation about voting and elections, transparency is the key to preserving faith in our democracy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jack Ginberg, please.
Hello. My name is Jack Ginberg. I'm a senior staff attorney with SPLC Action Fund, a 501c4 affiliate of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is dedicated to upholding the fundamental right of all citizens to vote. I testified yesterday, and I discussed how Georgia's redistricting process must reflect the state's diversity, which includes over 100,000 Georgians with limited English proficiency. These Georgians can only be included if the redistricting committees provide information in languages other than English. But even if Georgians with limited English proficiency are given the opportunity to participate, the process must improve for everyone else too, if anyone is to have meaningful input. The Google document form the committees provided for the submission of written testimony does not allow community members to attach documents, which forecloses their ability to submit proposed redistricting maps, community of interest maps, or longer testimony that includes text and graphics. Chairman Kennedy, yesterday you said that you can't do a lot until you collect the census data, and we agree with you. And that also applies to the public and organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center. Without census data, the Southern Poverty Law Center cannot propose district maps that we know will ultimately comply with federal and state laws. For example, we don't know exactly how many people are in each census tract, so we can't propose district lines that we know will comply with the constitutional mandate of one person, one vote. While some forum for listening to the public is better than nothing, if the process is to allow for substantive and meaningful input, rather than being simply a pro forma exercise to check the box of saying you listen to the public, there must be a way for community members to submit attachments rather than simply type into a comments box. And more importantly, there must be an opportunity for public input after the census data has been released. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Y'all gonna have to help me with this one. Heba Rizm, R-I-Z-N, Rizn? Okay. Jeremy Nye will be next, and then Ray Moyers. Welcome, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the chairs and the members of this committee for having this public forum. My name is Hiba Rizvi. I'm a community organizer with the Asian American Advocacy Fund. The Asian American Advocacy Fund is a nonprofit organization that advocates for federal, state, and local policies that will improve the lives of Asian Americans and other immigrant communities in Georgia. I was born in Gwinnett County and have lived, attended public schools, and helped with my mom's small business there. I currently reside in the 7th Congressional District, House District 102, which is right next to your district, Chairman Rich, and State Senate District 45. Since 2000, the Asian American population in Georgia has grown 138% and continues to be the fastest growing population in Georgia. According to the 2010 census, Asian Americans made up 3.1% of the state, and now we know that 2020 census numbers will show additional growth of our communities, especially in places like Gwinnett County. Our communities have flourished, establishing our roots and growing our families, started businesses, rebuilt neighborhoods and communities, and we continue to work towards community development. Now, as we look towards the next 10 years, we urge our lawmakers to ensure that Asian American communities are kept together through lines, that our communities can thrive and elect people that will represent our voices and our values. So we look to members of this committee to ensure that district lines in places like Gwinnett County and my hometown of Duluth are drawn fairly and help to keep communities of interest together. We ask that neighborhoods, schools, and shopping centers that our families frequent are kept together. And we ask that our voices and political power not be diminished by packing and cracking of these districts. At the Asian American Advocacy Fund, we believe that democracy works best when everyone is able to participate, and a participatory democracy is essential to ensuring that the needs of immigrants and communities of color are reflected in policy. We strongly encourage a public and transparent dialogue with residents and community groups as you collect more information about them, their communities of interest, how they've been impacted by redistricting in the past, and how that can improve in the future. And Chairman Rich, in the first town hall, you mentioned that the committee had not confirmed the logistics of how this process would work, but this redistricting process is vital to the future of our communities, and I urge that the committee take ample opportunity to allow for public input from organizations, experts, and other concerned residents. All Georgia residents deserve a fair redistricting process that can grant them the opportunity to elect the candidates of their choice, not letting the candidates choose their voters. It is essential for communities of color to provide input about their own communities and residences because we refuse to be split apart. These are our communities and our lines. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jeremy Nye.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Jeremy Nye. I'm from HD9 Lumpkin County. I'm a retired U.S. Army Ranger. The fate of the counties and the cities will be decided in the next 10 years based off a series of town halls and have the possibility to completely remap the lines of Georgia, as well as the ability of this citizen body to have duly elected representative leadership. What we envision is counties grouped as a whole. The integrity of a county cannot be overlooked, and all viable efforts should be made to maintain county integrity. Where this is not viable, convergent counties with similar population and political demographics should be attempted to be united into the same districts while not significantly modifying the political landscape of the representative areas. If this manner was to be significantly modified, it would degrade the people's voice and right for duly elected representation. If criteria 1 and 2 fail to meet population thresholds, we must rely on road networks to separate districts, natural lines of drift, i.e. lakes, creeks, mountain ranges, and valleys, urban and rural communities, and other natural features and population density focus groups. This would allow specific groupings of patterns of life to be paired with similar characteristics. Small designations are always preferable to large, as the representative body should come from the people and therefore be the body closest in similar mindset and beliefs of the people they wish to serve. Bottom line up front, we have come to a point of contention in the state of Georgia. We have lost confidence in all of our elected officials. There is no validity in discussion of issues across the aisle. We, the people of the state of Georgia, have had enough of this anti-American rhetoric being spewed from the radical league of the political ruling class and their media propaganda machine. I do not believe that any input given in these town halls will have an impact on decisions made. The corruption runs through the entirety of our government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ray Moyers.
Thank you. Chairman Rich, Vice Chairman Kennedy, and all the members of the committee, thank you for coming out tonight to our great county of Forsyth. So I appreciate the time y'all are giving us to comment and get our input in. My name is Ray Moyers. I'm precinct chairman of GOP 35 in precinct 35 here in Forsyth County. I've been a resident of Forsyth County since 2005, moving here from Florida. I live in the Brookwood area, which is about 5 miles from this high school. It's about as far south in Forsyth County as you can get before you go into Fulton County. The area consists mostly of single-family subdivisions built mostly in the 1990s and early 2000s. But in recent years, more multifamily townhomes have been added along with a new high school to handle the growth. And the growth has brought diversity into our communities, and the mixture has been well received. As I travel around my precinct, I find that people are moving here for 3 major reasons into Forsyth County. Number 1 is low taxes. Number 2 is the schools. They love the school districts. And number 3 is that we have low crime. And we want to keep that in Forsyth County. The growth in Forsyth in this area has continued northward since we can't go stay in Forsyth County and move south, would be in Fulton, so we want to move north. So what we're looking for is to stay in District 7. My area is Precinct 35, is called the Johns Creek area. And so we love our communities. We've all been together for quite a while, but we are getting new people moving in, a diversified community, and regardless of race or ethnicity or religion or whatever, we want the best for our children and our schools. We love the low crime, and obviously we like the low taxes. So if we can keep it District 7, maybe push it a little further north if you want to expand District 7, but keep us in Forsyth County. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Murray, and then we're going to have David Horton, followed by Jennifer Ambler.
Welcome to Forsyth County. Hope
Thank
you're
you.
having fun.
We're glad to be
great.
here. Thank you.
Glad to see you here. Welcome. Here in Forsyth County, we're a great community. We like living with each other. We're pretty friendly. We have good schools, good representation, and we would like to make our county whole as a district. I would like for you to consider that. I'm not going to tell you your job. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. So please consider making Forsyth County one district. It's, we've been divided for quite a while, and I would like to see us all be able to claim the same representative. It would be great. Power is in numbers, so please consider that and make us one whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. David Horton.
Good evening, Chairman Kennedy and Chairwoman Rich. My name is David Horton Jr., but most call me DJ. I am a 13-year-old and a rising 8th grader at Providence Christian Academy. I am also, along with many of my friends here, a concerned citizen of Georgia. Now, over the past several months, I have volunteered to help educate people and combat the devastating effects of gerrymandering and the manipulation of the redistricting process. Now, as it is drawn right now, my district, Senate District 55, is split between parts of DeKalb County and parts of Gwinnett County. Now, as a citizen of Gwinnett, I'd hate that because it makes it exceptionally harder for our state senator to advocate for solutions to problems specific to our community in Gwinnett, such as the 9.2% of us who currently live below the poverty level. And having a split district makes it hard on us as community members and leaders to effectively lobby our legislators on behalf of our community and Gwinnett citizens. Now, Gwinnett is over 60% non-white, yet only a handful of our state House and state Senate seats are majority minority. Our representation should align with our voters, and by drawing districts that dilute minority voices and cross county lines, Georgians lose the power to effectively elect and advocate for their interest. Now, Gwinnett County is a wonderful place with wonderful people and a great place to live. But I believe with the direct and undivided representation in the Georgia Senate, it will become an even better place to live and thrive. I urge you to vote for maps that respect and maintain community and county boundaries so that issues that impact communities like mine in Gwinnett will be recognized and addressed. I urge you to resist drawing maps that are blatantly unfair to Georgia communities and maps that are gerrymandered to prioritize politicians over voters. This is not a right or left issue. This is a right or wrong issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Ms. Jennifer Ambler, thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, chairs, and thank you very much for holding this hearing and giving me the opportunity to address you today. My name is Jennifer Ambler, and I moved to Suwanee, Georgia 7 months ago from New York City. But I don't want to trade snow for bad democracy. The drawing of district lines is one of the most important parts of a representative democracy. And to have good representation, the legislature needs to be representative of the people. That means drawing districts that are community-centered, fair, and equitable. But this process in the past has not produced ideal results. Georgia is pretty close to being a 50-50 state. In 2020, Republicans won about 51% of the overall vote for state legislature, yet won 57% of the House and 61% of the Senate. That means some communities are being grossly underrepresented, and that cannot stand. Now, I'm not blaming you. You are only responding to the incentives in front of you. When the lines are drawn by the very people who stand to gain or lose power from them, then your incentive is, of course, to protect your friend who only barely won re-election by giving him a few more friendly voters, or to look at a close district that just barely flipped and try to make it more hostile to the woman who flipped it. The temptation is there to cut up communities, to pack and crack voters into districts in the way that most advantages you and your party. It's only natural. These decisions shouldn't be in your hands. They should be in the hands of an independent, nonpartisan commission. I urge you to support the bills currently before the legislature to create such a commission. And for this round of redistricting, I urge you to draw community-centered, fair districts and not draw them with the intention of wringing out as much partisan advantage as you can. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Anjali Njeti, and then after that, Honed Dan, and then Arlene Mui.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for holding this forum here, and thank you for your service. My name is Anjali Njeti. I've been a Johns Creek resident and a Georgia voter for the past 14 years, and I've co-founded an organization called They See Blue Georgia. Our state government has historically relied upon various methods to deprive certain Georgians of the ability to vote. This has historically included gerrymandering, the redrawing of district lines with the intent to deprive either political parties or racial minorities of meaningful representation and political power. I wish I could believe that Georgia's redistricting process this year will be a fair and transparent one, but I predict, as does the Brennan Center for Justice, that due to our state's changing demographics and single-party control, we are likely in for partisan and racial gerrymandering like we've never seen before. No voting law or district boundary should stop us or prevent us from being fair. We need every voter to have agency and autonomy in our democracy. I thank you for your time.
All right, Honed Dan, and then Arlene Mui. Meyer.
Hi, my name is Arlene Meyer, and I live in Johns Creek. I am currently in North Fulton, and I'm in Congressional District 6, but now I'm in House District 25 up here in Forsyth, so I'm very close by. I grew up as a child of the military. I grew up in communities all across this nation, including overseas, gone to Department of Defense School, and our families made our home here in Georgia. And we have lived here now for about 20 years. We've seen great growth in North Fulton, growth I'm very excited about because it represents to me the country and the community that I live in. I didn't think about speaking this moment, but I want to make sure that you take in mind whether or not a person has been an American citizen for 1 year or their family has been here for generations. They are Americans and they deserve representation. And we deserve to have, everyone has a chance to deserve fair, open, transparent, reapportion process. As far as gerrymandering, I'm very concerned about the thought that Georgia will, in this redistricting process, will take advantage of political expediency for their own politicians, and I do believe that people need to know that in their communities, our diverse communities, that they have the power to be able to choose representation that reflects their own communities and to keep them together so that they can have and choose people to reflect their own communities. I'm concerned. I've been gerrymandered before, and like I said, I'm in North Fulton, and I'm, but when I hear things like we want to keep a certain district conservative or we want fairness, and we want it so that everybody gets to choose their representative. We don't want our politicians choosing that for us, and I don't think that's fair into many of our new communities as well. And that's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ken Lawler, and then after that, Gary Henderson, and then next up will be Maggie Goldman.
Thank you, Chairs Kennedy and Rich, and to the members of the committee. I'm with Fair Districts Georgia. I'm the chairman of Fair Districts Georgia. We are a nonpartisan organization with the sole mission of trying to get fair maps done through Georgia this year. We are nonpartisan. We do not favor the election of any candidate. We do not work with any political party. I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of fairness, which is one of the key thoughts that's been coming throughout all the speakers today is fairness in maps. Our belief is that new technology can help define fair maps in advance of drawing the maps. If you look back at the last two redistricting cycles, we heard earlier that the 2001 maps that were drawn by Democrats were a very bad gerrymander and were in fact thrown out by courts. The 2011 maps, we heard someone say that those maps had cleaner lines. But when you look at the results of the elections that followed those two redistrictings, especially for the State House and Senate, the 2002 election resulted in a tilted result for the Democrats, and the 2012 election resulted in a tilted result for the Republicans. We think this has to stop. The good news is that there is now technology available, and we are working with the Princeton Gerrymandering Project to bring this and offer this to the legislature to help understand what fair looks like from a Georgia perspective. Our view is that our maps should not be partisan tilted one way or the other, but they should reflect the natural political affiliation of the citizens in Georgia, as well as providing adequate minority representation. We now have phase one of the benchmarks that we're working on with Princeton available for the legislature to review that look at the history. When we get the August census data, we will be producing new benchmarks. Those benchmarks will be statistical tests that will help us understand in advance how many Republican versus Democratic districts should there be in Georgia, just given the natural lay of the land in Forsyth County and other counties across the state. So those benchmarks, we think those are tools that can be made available to the legislature and to the public. We look forward to working with the committees to do that, and we obviously would like to meet with the committees to discuss this in more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lawler. Gary Henderson, then Maggie Goldman, and then Jill Trammell.
Hello, my name is Gary Henderson, and I was born and raised in Georgia, went to Georgia Tech, and I have lived most of my adult life in Georgia. Corporate moves have taken me in and out, but the last 22 years I've lived in East Cobb in the 6th District and in Matt Dollar's territory and Kay Kirkpatrick's Senate District. So I've been around for a little while. I've seen the state go from mostly Democrat to mostly Republican to now pretty well split. And I would like to approach things from a little bit different perspective than what I've been hearing today. The 6th district is pretty regular. I mean, it's pretty well bound by 85 on the east, 75 on the west, 285 on the south, and the Cobb and Fulton County lines on the north. There's a little bit of excursion outside of that, particularly toward Tucker and so forth, and inside 285 that might better be represented by the 4th or 5th district. But generally, the 6th district is fairly logical. No one wants their district to look like somebody threw paint on the wall and it splattered and ran in all different directions. But there's also another aspect of it. When you get into that portion of the world, you're not going to be bound by county lines, maybe city lines, but not, no one county is going to be a complete district, and no multiple counties are going to be a complete House district. So there has to be some logic there that goes along the lines of saying that in order for us to be reasonably represented by our member of Congress, there has to be some thought process given to the fact that if you're in a district or a precinct that has voted primarily Republican or primarily Democratic for the last 10 years, why would you throw us into a district that is contrary to that? Which means we are not going to be represented by somebody who thinks and believes the things that we think and believe. It's going to be somebody who's either a conservative or a liberal that we don't agree with. So in those areas, you have to also ask yourself, you have to look at not only county lines and the natural boundaries, but you also have to look at, who's going to represent these people. Are you going to throw a conservative district in with a liberal representation or vice versa? And to do that is something that probably serves no one. It certainly doesn't serve the people who have been thrown into a place where they don't think they really belong. And with that in mind, I ask you to look at that also in conjunction with everything else that's been said about county lines and cities and so forth. All of that makes sense, but please look at us also from the standpoint of those of us that need to be represented by someone who thinks and believes the way we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie Goldman, and then Jill Trammell.
Hi, my name is Maggie Goldman, and I am a precinct captain in Johns Creek, Precinct 19. I think the value of keeping communities together and contiguous is to allow the representatives to get to know their few communities well and not need to get to know 20 miles of communities when they're representing them. What you should not do is actively keep conservative communities together, ignoring voters in the same community, as we have seen prior comments before. You do want to keep communities together, and whoever happens to live there, happens to live there. I would like to advocate that Johns Creek stay together. Right now, we mostly are represented by one representative. We have a few things on the outside, but I would certainly not want to see like 5 or 6 people representing Johns Creek. That is what we mean about keeping communities together, not keeping ideological communities together. I also used to live in House District 84, which spanned 20 miles from North Decatur and Druid Hills through the city of Decatur into Midway Woods where I lived, down Candler Road, all the way to the DeKalb-Henry County border. This is a House district, the smallest district that we have in the state, and it represented 20 miles. That is a mostly Democratic reliable district. Let's look at a Republican reliable district, 97. This district spans only 10 miles, and the communities of Sugar Hill, Suwanee, and Duluth. Now imagine if this House district also included Peachtree Corners, Norcross, Doraville, Chamblee. I bet it would be harder to get to know all of those local issues and represent that community well. What if this district instead included Lilburn, Tucker, and Clarkston? I think it would be equally difficult to learn to represent all those local issues and represent those people well. So we're asking that you take the smallest districts that we have in the state and find ways to keep communities together geographically, regardless of their ideological leanings. Thank you.
Jill Trammell.
Hi, thank you all for being here and hearing all these voices today. I think a lot of people have dogs in this fight, and I'm hoping that the new districting will help us become more whole as communities. My first year here was in 1995, right before the Olympics, and I moved here from Southern California. At the time, I was told this was one of the fastest growing counties in the nation, and I don't think it's ever stopped. One of the things I've loved to see about the growth of Forsyth County is the diversity. Growing up in Southern California, you know, diversity wasn't much of an issue. It was what it was. My friends were of all races. And I don't think that this redistricting should have anything to do with race. I don't think it should have anything to do with ideologies as well. I do believe, though, that it should make sense. And when we're looking at what she was saying from the Board of Elections, that certain areas that are mapped based on commonalities for geographical reasons, that makes sense to me. I live on Lake Lanier. I moved here because it was low taxes, amazing schools. My husband and I have raised 6 kids here in Forsyth County, and we would love to see grandchildren be raised here. So having the representation that really shows or is able to have our voice heard is necessary and needed. I remember back when Jack Murphy was a senator here. I remember him being at community events and seeing him and having his ear. We don't have that now, not often enough. So I would urge you to please, take a look at our commonalities in Forsyth County. Keep us whole. We love the growth, we love the diversity, but we want to be able to have representation for this entire county. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Teresa Shin, and then followed by Anita Tucker.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Shin. I'm a resident of Forsyth County. I'm an active member of Asian community in the 7th District. I'm also a member of Asian Pacific Americans. So I came here today, wasn't prepared to speak at all, but I hear so much racial comments, so here I am. By the grace of God, I immigrated from China to America right after Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. Today, I proudly wear red as an independent because I believe in America first. I believe in America's founding principles. I had lived in the city of Atlanta, Gwinnett, County of Gwinnett, and my family chose to move to Forsyth 7 or 8 years ago for better schools, low crime rate, low taxes, and a diverse, loving, supportive community. So that is Forsyth, okay? Do not just making that comment. Look how Forsyth look like. That's very, very divisive. It's not correct. For the above reason, just I mentioned, low crime rate, better schools. There is 12% annual increase of the Asian population, 14% Black and Latino population increase in Forsyth County. We come here as immigrants. We come here to seek equal opportunity, not equity. We Asian Americans provide the best testimony that America's dreams is real. We achieve it by hard work. We are conservative by nature. We do not want our kids to be trained as political activists in schools. We want them to learn academics. We want them to learn academics and American values. Our voice is conservative one. Do not let a very few loud noise to confuse you with that reality. We are not victims. We are achievers. We speak for ourselves. We have no problem with our representation. Do not let some of the people here play race cards on you or on us. They are divisive. We are all Americans. Aren't we supposed to be united under our Constitution, our founding principles? Okay. Regarding redistricting, I have 3 points. Number one, I want Forsyth in one federal congressional district. Now it's 7 and half 9th. Number two, we now have approximately we have 250K population and should have 4 state house seats. Number three, lines should be easily defined, like roads and bodies of water, not open fields. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ms. Anita Tucker?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor. And next we'll have Kathy Gates, please.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow, but I'm going to tell you what I think. My name's Anita Tucker. I have lived in Forsyth County about 12 years, and I've lived in Georgia about 40. And I keep hearing community, and I really feel like that's a code. And just for some context for Forsyth County, it has expanded and become, yes, more diverse in the south end, more so than in the north end. And there is a lot of, let's say, resentment about that fact, but it's true, that is a fact, and I am sure that you as a committee will treat this fairly and will not be influenced by people that have political agendas. This needs to be about fairness for representation. I can tell you, I am extremely happy with my Congressional District 7 representation right now, and I am not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Ms. Kathy Gates, please. Followed by Todd Harrison.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you to the chairs and the committee for this opportunity to speak in front of you. Hi, my name is Katie Gates. I'm a recent graduate of South Forsyth High School and an incoming first year at the University of Georgia. I'm a longtime resident of Forsyth County from the time I was 2 years old. And in that relatively short period of 15 years, this county has changed greatly. The Forsyth County of today is drastically different than the Forsyth County that many of the area's older residents may remember fondly. And it is important to keep areas with common interests together to ensure accurate representation. However, in the case of Forsyth County, nearly all residents will admit that the south of the county is very different from the north. We all share a common pride and appreciation for the place we live and share, but the facts remain. North Forsyth remains less diverse and more rural than South Forsyth. And due to these demographic differences, it makes sense that the people of South and North Forsyth may have different values and different needs. Therefore, it also makes sense that the two areas have different representation in their federal government in order to ensure that these needs are being met. An earlier speaker mentioned that South Forsyth and North Gwinnett share many similarities, and they were absolutely correct. Both areas have grown rapidly over the past few decades. Both areas have large commuter workforces that endure the awful commute to Atlanta to work. Both areas have large, diverse populations of immigrants, largely Asian Americans. Both areas are politically diverse, with Democrat and Republican neighbors living side by side. These facts are reflected in our recent election, where District 7 very narrowly elected a moderate Democrat who ran on Medicare and Medicaid expansion, along with infrastructure and improvements, and who has served previously for the Georgia General Assembly in a nonpartisan position. Perhaps in 2022, the district will flip back. It's very possible. The area is very ideologically diverse, as I previously mentioned, and our elections are always very close. But if it does, I hope that it will be because the people of District 7 chose their new representative, not because the Georgia legislature chose it for them. Keep District 7 intact. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gates. Mr. Todd Harrison, please. Followed by Alba Henson.
Hello.
Hello.
I appreciate you guys taking your time to come out here.
Can you pull the microphone up so we can hear you? Thank you.
I certainly can.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you guys taking your time to come out here. I assume that, like me, you guys worked all day and everything, and I came here right after work. And several of my points of interest have been expressed by other people already. Therefore, I'll be brief. But I moved here in 1995. I live in Suwanee. And I've lived in Norcross and Lawrenceville and 3 years in Maryland while I was in exile. But anyway, long story. what I would like to say is this. I did a lot of looking at the maps that we have now and the maps that we've had in the past. And I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. And I didn't just get into engineering and then go into management or, go into business or something like that. So I've stayed technical. And when I looked at the maps and looked at the tools that were there to evaluate who's in which district based on votes that we've already had and everything, I saw a very complex picture and I said, man, I can't come up with a map that I could say, hey, here, let's try this. So you guys have a very tough job in front of you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your effort and coming out here to hear us and everything. But what I will say is this. Some previous maps have had a lot of branches, like people have mentioned these 20-mile-long districts and stuff, and, I saw one that reached to Augusta from Atlanta, and, that kind of thing is bad because there's not much commonality in all that. So the first thing would be to limit the branches and stuff of the districts. And second, it is a good idea to keep the counties together, although that's probably not always going to be possible. And then I'll get to some of the other things too. Like, for example, as a black voter, I also have other interests besides things related to being black. And so I would say that don't assume that people want to have certain interests based on their race and stuff. I mean, people move to an area because they want to be in that area. They want to, have the advantages that they found in that area. They like the community that they found. They found a house that they liked, an apartment they liked, a business they could work at and be close to and stuff. So, don't assume that people just move there because, oh, I'm black, so I've got to move to a black community or something. And then, I assume that you guys are going to take into account all kinds of things, including ethnicity and politics and stuff like that. But, drawing the lines primarily based on ethnicity is perpetuating racism in a sense, because it's saying your race is the most important consideration. So let that be a factor, but not the primary factor. And then one other suggestion I would have is this, that state districts are by definition smaller than congressional districts and stuff. And what I would hope we could do as a team is to have all of the state districts be subsets of the congressional districts so that there's not like one that's split between, say, the 6th and the 7th, but it's all in the 6th or all in the 7th. And so then there can be more commonality of the interests within that district. And thank you again, and I appreciate your time. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Ms. Alba Henson.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Alba Henson. I am born in Bogota, Colombia, and I had a question for you guys today, for everybody. We are in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Nicaragua? No, we are in the United States of America. And we love this country. We move, me and my example, move here because I believe in freedom, no in division. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in races. I don't believe in my accent. I don't believe in these privileges. I believe that we are one beautiful country. We need keeping our country together. We need have the power and the people, not the people in Washington. We don't need more people there. This is not a place that everybody has a little privilege because you color or you accent. No do this because we are so close to be in the socialist nasty agenda. And you don't believe it. You don't believe it. Only when you escape for this. Only when you bury us for this car, like me, for the bombs and for the all nasty things that all the socialist nasty communist people destroy our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henson. Thank you. And Mr. David Withen, having a little trouble? Okay. A little trouble with reading the last name. I hope I said that correctly.
It's been pronounced far worse. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Well, welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you for the opportunity. I will keep this very short. I agree and want to echo sentiments, especially sentiments of Mark Roundtree concerning representation. So many of our districts have gotten to the point now where I don't feel comfortable calling my representative because I can't get a hold of him. I spent many, many years in Georgia. I've been here 46 years. I've spent many, many years in Georgia, lived in Gwinnett for the vast majority of those. Many, many years just happy to vote what I believed in, talk to my friends about what I thought was important, and trust the government to do what the government should do. I can't do that anymore. I have to speak up. Please make the districts small enough so that I can talk to my representatives. Make this a point of very important. The second thing I want to bring up is something that Teresa said. The lady that just spoke before me said the very same thing. I have heard multiple cries for keeping communities together, and that is your requirement, I believe, in redistricting. However, one of the things that I'm hearing is a community is solely defined by the color of its skin or the language that is spoken. I urge you to think, if you moved to Georgia, when you moved to Georgia, you looked for the best schools for your kids, potentially the lowest crime rate for safety where you lived, and you did not pay a whit of attention who the representative was or what the voting was that went on in your district. Please understand the definition of a community is people came together largely around school and affordable housing and safety. That's your definition of a community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We had one name that we either skipped or we called and was not here, Honigo Don, D-A-H-N, last name Don. Yes, sir. Please come forward. Thank you. I'm not going to try it again. Just tell me. You tell us the right way and we'll follow your lead. And
you're good.
You have the floor.
I tell friends and family, don't bother or don't give yourself a hard time because I had a hard time saying the name myself. And it's my name. First is, if you can think of the biblical story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So I'm Abednego.
All right.
Does that help?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very helpful. So I am a proud resident of Gwinnett County. I am here tonight to represent my two boys, Caden and Keyston. And I am also a precinct chair in Gwinnett County. For that reason, I just wanted to remind every single one of us in this room tonight that redistricting chief aim should be to ensure democracy. When we do this by having equal representation, not just in Gwinnett County, but also nationwide. A fun fact that I want to share, and then I'm going to go ahead and take my seat, is I read about a few months ago that the entire population in the U.S., if you survey or if you've read the piece that I read, only 30% of the folks in the entire United States have their passport. That's 3 out of 7. That's 3 out of 7. So out of 10 people, only 3 of us have our passport. What that tells me is we don't travel enough, and as a result of that, we don't appreciate what we have in this country. I encourage each and every one of us to find a way to get outside this country. And when you come from another country and you come to the U.S., you will have the passionate voices that these ladies have shared tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, that concludes the presentation of witness testimony. I want to again thank South Forsyth High School for allowing us to host this here tonight. I want to thank the legislators that are here and those that have traveled. And most importantly, I want to thank you, the public, for giving us your input It's going to be received, it's going to be considered, and it'll be documented. With that, I'm going to pass the mic to Chairman Rich, who will adjourn our meeting.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.